أعوذ بالله السميع العليم من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم والصلاة والسلام على أشرف المرسلين سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. Thank you once again for inviting me here in Malaysia, and for the organizers and Light Upon Light for trying to have this evening and tomorrow evening discussion once around the notion of jihad this evening, and then also tomorrow about our understanding of our role and how do we have to deal with the world today. This evening the question is about understanding the meaning of true jihad. And I think it's a good opportunity to come to some of the methodological questions that are important from an Islamic viewpoint. My take here is not to respond to the West, but it's to challenge Muslims. In fact, it's an internal discussion that I want to have with you, as you are mainly in this room Muslims, and if you are not, it's interesting as well to get a better understanding of some of the challenges Muslims have with some of the main concepts in their tradition. And it's a revealing process. We have with the concept of jihad the same problem that we have with many other concepts in Islam. Many other concepts are not well understood, not well translated, and not well used in our tradition. Sometimes we are reducing the meaning, sometimes we are confusing the meanings, and sometimes we are distorting the meanings in the way we are dealing with the concepts and the way we are dealing with some critical notions as Muslims. So I don't like the fact that too often Muslims, when they come to their own tradition, they are obsessed by responding to the West. Thank you. Or pleasing the West, or confronting the West. In the three situation, it's in fact a type of alienation. We think about ourselves through the eyes of the other, to have a dialogue, to please, or to confront. Let us first reconcile ourselves with our own tradition. And this is the point here in my introduction, two main points that I wanted to bring to the fore. The first one is about this question of terminology. We really have a big challenge. Why? First, because in fact, as we know, the language of the Quran is Arabic. You here in Malaysia, you are not first Arabic speaker. So you have to deal with a language which is not yours. And you have then a double problem. What we can see with people who are speaking Arabic, in fact, we still have a problem of translation, of understanding. What does this word mean within the Arabic language, within the tradition, and in different fields? So from Arabic to Arabic, there is a problem. So there is a challenge. You need to understand that. So this is why you can see people, scholars, ulama, who are only speaking Arabic, and they are dealing with notions. Suyuti in his books, and for example, you know that Suyuti wrote this very important book, Al-Itqan fi Ulum al-Quran. So it's mastery in the sciences of Al-Quran. He's the one who, when he came to jihad, was saying jihad has 80 occurrences and meanings in Arabic and in the Islamic tradition. So it's not a word that you are using. There are different meanings depending on the field, depending on the reference that you are dealing with. So from Arabic to Arabic, it's a challenge. Now add to this, from Arabic to English or Arabic to Malay, you have to deal with translating. No wonder that if we Muslims are not equipped with the deep understanding, and we cannot give a deep translation from Arabic to Arabic or from Arabic to English, the Orientalists, people of other faiths, are going to deal with them the way they want or the way they understand. So you cannot blame the people to play with your words when you don't know what your words mean. That's your first responsibility. If you are a student, or if you are a believer or an ordinary Muslim, this is your business. This is the basic understanding. There are words that you cannot avoid. And it starts with something which is essential. For example, we are talking about jihad today, but for example, about Allah. Some are coming with a very emotional way of dealing with words, and some are reducing the understanding. If you go to any Muslim majority country where the people are speaking Arabic, when they talk about God, they talk about Allah in Arabic. The Copts in Egypt are saying they pray Allah in Arabic. So are they wrong? They don't know the very meaning of Allah in Arabic. So are you going to teach the Arabs the Arabic language? Or you might be wrong in your understanding because you are so emotional that you don't get it from a normative, grammatical and semantic positioning. So this is why we have to be very cautious with the people who are reducing this, and we have some literalists that are saying Allah, it's the name of Allah for everybody. So even when you speak Malay or you speak English or you speak French and German, this is the word. Or you understand that we are talking about the only one God, and God in English is God, and Dieu in French, and it's the same if you get the very meaning. So don't fall into the trap of emotional cultural struggles. Come to normative understanding. Be equipped, because the normative understanding is wisdom. It helps you to be wise in the way of dealing with these issues. If you are too emotional, you are losing track. You are losing or missing the point. So we need to come with normative definitions. And I'm saying normative definitions because these words or concepts have many definitions, not only one. So we have to be equipped. Now, the second point in the introduction is jihad is a central concept. So anyone who is coming to you and saying you have to remove jihad from your terminology, and if you are trying to avoid it, you are not making a contribution to the discussion. For you, first, you have to understand that everything in Islam is about achieving goals, isn't it? What are you trying to achieve? Worshipping Allah is to achieve goals, is to come close to Him, is to love Him, is to go beyond even this understanding that I'm doing this to be rewarded. No, I'm doing this because I'm trying to love Him. And this is what the Prophet ﷺ said to Umar ibn al-Khattab radiallahu anhu. It's not enough to worship Allah out of fear and out of, I want to be rewarded. You have to try to struggle to achieve the goal, which is, I'm doing this because I love Him and I want to be loved by Allah. It's not an easy task, but it's a goal. And when you have goals, you should understand that there is a path. And when you are following a path, trying to achieve goals, there is only one thing that you have to understand: there will be struggles. So Islam is goals to achieve, struggles to experience. That's it. And struggle to experience is jihad. No sharia without jihad. No path towards Allah without jihad. No worship without jihad. Even the only fact that you are called 5 times a day to pray is going to be a jihad. So the 5 pillars of Islam, to say La ilaha illallah Muhammadun Rasulullah والسلام, means I'm taking a stand in front of this world saying I'm here to worship him. Jihad. Shahada jihad. You get that? Shahada jihad. So it means that you are starting to struggle with your own self, that you understand that there is a meaning in this life, and then to pray is a jihad, to the zakat is a jihad, and you know that. You know, even it's easier with you when it comes to money. You know it's jihad to give some of your money. That's the struggle. We don't get it when it's to give who you are, but to give what you have, money, it's a jihad. Even the pilgrimage is a jihad. A song, jihad. So the very essence of our religion, the pillars of Islam, are based on this. Goals to achieve, struggles to experience. This is the starting point of what we need to understand as Muslims. Now, if we understand this picture and we understand the centrality of the concept of jihad in our religion, let us come to an overall definition. So I can't take the 80 occurrences, and I just want to stop to jihad, what it means, the etymology, the roots, and then how it could be used. The first, we all know when somebody is telling you what is jihad. Jahada means to make an effort. It's effort. So this is the very simple definition of this, and in fact the effort will be for us to understand, to follow the path. So Sharia is ثُمَّ جَعَلْنَاكَ عَلَى شَرِيعَةٍ مِّنَ الْأَمْرِ فَاتَّبِعْهَا. We put you in this path, which is, you know that the etymology of Sharia is the path towards the source of water. So you have to follow the path. So ثُمَّ جَعَلْنَاكَ عَلَى شَرِيعَةٍ مِّنَ الْأَمْرِ, you have to follow the path. فَاتَّبِعْهَا means put your intention, put your effort to follow the path. فَاتَّبِعْهَا. The fuqaha are reducing Sharia to law, and the Sufi are reducing Sharia to sometimes this purification of the self. Sharia is all this, is to follow the path with your heart, to follow the path with your mind, and to follow the path with your life. وَمِنْ حَيْثُ خَرَجْتَ فَوَلِّ وَجْهَكَ شَطْرَ الْمَسْجِدِ الْحَرَامِ. From wherever you go, just turn your face towards al-Masjid al-Haram. What does it mean? Your face, the physical? No, your heart, your life. Turn this. This is the way. This is the Qibla. Qibla is not only to be obsessed with where is the Qibla to pray, is what is the direction to change my life. You get it? The physical things, it's so deep that when you try to find the direction, some are very strict with the, where is the Qibla? Here, that. That's fine, good. Be with your life the way you are with finding the Qibla. Turn your face means turn your heart. Turn your heart means turn your life. Path, follow it. And this is going to be the starting point of al-jihad. فَاتَّبِعْهَا. So in order to follow the path, then to be faithful to the path, you are going to experience struggles. And that's the understanding. So effort. It takes effort. Now, there is something which is deeper than that. Okay, it takes effort to do what? What shall I do? So this is here, we understand that Allah is telling us, and He is sending messengers, and the last Prophet ﷺ, on your way, you are going to find obstacles. It's not an easy way. Get it right. Islam is full of very easy principles, but life is complicated. It's not an easy way. Very clear principles, very simple principles, but you have to implement them, and your life is going to be complicated. On the path, on your way, you will find obstacles. And obstacles in Islam will never and should never be understood as people looking at the obstacles and say, I'm a victim. Very difficult. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying in the Quran, لا يكلف الله نفسا إلا وسعها. لا يكلف الله نفسا إلا وسعها means you are not going to bear more than what you can bear. That's going to be your struggle. What I'm telling you, what Allah is sending to you is, you can make it, but you have to face it. You have to face it. And this is why I'm always translating the verse into the other way. Some are very happy. لا يكلف الله نفسا إلا وسعها. Yes, that's very good. But look at the other side. But if you can make it and you don't, aywa, that's going to be another story. Because if you can make it, and who told you that you cannot make it? You can't start by saying, I can't. You have to struggle. And sometimes you know that you can do much more than what you think you can. Many people in situation of, when they are struggling in situation of difficulty are saying, I didn't know that I had this strength. Yes, you have. And if you rely on Him, and then you say, La hawla wa la quwwata illa billah, means that some strength could come from Him, even if you don't know that you can get that. And it happens with the companions. They were 300 facing 1,000. Everything could happen. If you believe in Him, La hawla wa la quwwata illa billah means sometimes I cannot make it on my own, but with His help, insha'Allah, I can make it. So لا يكلف الله نفسا إلا وسعها. It's huge. It's heavy. It's not just to think about, I can't do it. So this is one. So you can't deal with it without understanding the very deep meaning that you have to face the challenge. And there is another thing which is important. لا تزر وازرة وزر أخرى. No one is going to bear the mistakes or the faults of somebody else, or the weaknesses. Why? Because one day you will be alone responding to Allah. وَكُلُّهُمْ آتِيهِمْ يَوْمَ الْقِيَامَةِ فَرْدًا. You are going to be alone and you have to respond. What have you done with your time? What have you done with your health? What have you done with your money? What have you done with your life? At the end, you're not going to bear more than what you can. You are going to be alone, and then nobody could put on you what you haven't done, and you cannot put on anybody what you haven't done. So it's a sense of individual responsibility. So when we understand this, we understand all that, the very meaning of Islam when it comes to jihad is you are mukallaf, you are responsible. And every obstacle in your life is a test. It's a test. So don't play the victim. Don't play the victim. No victim mentality in Islam. It doesn't exist. We might be victims, but we have to stand up subject. I'm ready for the fight. I'm ready for the fight. I'm ready for the fight. And the first fight is my own ego. You can't sit down and say, you know what? My ego is too strong. I lost the battle. Can you do this? Are you going to go in front of Allah, before Allah, the day of judgment, say, my ego was too strong? You are playing the victim mentality with your own self. That's not going to work. And sometimes Muslims, they are doing this with others. We are the victims. They don't like us. I don't care. You should not care about people liking you. First, respect yourself and know that you are responsible. Every obstacle is a test. How are you going to respond to this? Are you going to challenge this? And if you see some of our sisters and brothers around the world, the way they deal with difficulties, with oppression, with dictatorships, with poverty, they are much more courageous than many of us with all what we have. And we still play the victims. We still nurture this victim mentality. And as I told you, if you understand the very meaning of jihad, it means every obstacle is a test. Stand up. Stand up. And you only prostrate in front of Allah, before Allah, only Because you should understand that you have to stand up before humanity and humans. You have to be up to the struggles with yourself and with others. This is why you are saying the prostration is only for him. And he's the one who is understanding our efforts. He's the one who is understanding when nobody is seeing what we are trying to do. He sees this. He sees our intention, what we are trying to do. And he also sees our laziness, our way of playing the victims and thinking that, and you know, the other face of laziness is just to hope that the people are going to love us because we are nice. We are moderate. And some are confusing moderation with forgetting about the Islamic principles. The only way to be right with the Islamic principles is to be moderate. But if moderation means that you are forgetting the Islamic principles, you are nothing. Neither a Muslim nor moderate. You are a Muslim without Islam. So you have to come to this understanding here. So what I was saying is this very important understanding here, which has to do with every obstacle is a test. And then we come to the very meaning of jihad, which is effort, but now we understand is a double movement. The first has to do with life is going to be with obstacles. So what do you have to do? The first thing that you have to do is understanding that there is a path and obstacles are going to come on your way. You have to resist. So a believer saying La ilaha illallah, by definition, she or he is a resistant. You have to resist. But you cannot just resist. Your role on the world, and this is why you are rahmatan lil alameen. If it was said to the Prophet ﷺ, وَمَا أَرْسَلْنَاكَ إِلَّا رَحْمَةً لِلْعَالَمِينَ, you are a mercy. It means that you are going to bring something to the world. You cannot just say, I'm resisting. That's fine, resist. But what else are you doing? I'm resisting in order to reform. And muslihun are the people who are reforming, changing the world for the better. So jihad is an effort to resist and to reform. So this is why, for example, I never just use jihad as effort. I use the whole sentence. Resistance and reform all together. And you have it in the Quran. I said it in the morning, and you know, الَّذِينَ إِن مَّكَّنَّاهُمْ فِي الْأَرْضِ أَقَامُوا الصَّلَاةَ وَآتَوُا الزَّكَاةَ وَأَمَرُوا بِالْمَعْرُوفِ وَنَهَوْا عَنِ الْمُنكَرِ. أَمَرُوا بِالْمَعْرُوفِ is they are commending what is right. And when you are commending what is right, this being assertive about what is right is going to go with وَنَهَوْا عَنِ الْمُنكَرِ. So they are resisting to what is bad. So you have to resist to what is bad and then reform to what is good. So you commend what is good, you see what is bad, and you resist what is bad in order to promote what is good. This is the path. This is the way we follow the path towards faithfulness. This is the way we are faithful to Allah. This is to worship. This is to worship. And not only you do this, but for example, with whom do you have to start? With yourself. Look at the verse of the Quran coming in Surah Al-Baqarah. رَبَّنَا لَا تُؤَاخِذْنَا إِن نَّسِينَا أَوْ أَخْطَأْنَا. Okay? Don't be too harsh with us if we forget or if we make mistakes. Okay? This is what is said in the Quran. The first mistake before the mistake is your own weakness because you forget. Why do you pray? You have another verse in the Quran. In Surah Taha, when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is calling Musa alayhi salam, he says, إنني أنا الله لا إله إلا أنا فاعبدني وأقم الصلاة لذكري. You pray in order to remember me. So why do you pray? It's to resist what? To resist your own forgetfulness. وأقم الصلاة لذكري. And then you are struggling with your own ego. 5 times a day you are doing a jihad against your own way of forgetting Him and say, come, استجيبوا لله. So you have to respond to Allah's call. So this is a personal jihad with your own ego. Why? Because al-insan is full of nisyan. Human beings are full of forgetfulness. They are forgetting. So as we are forgetting, this struggle is a jihad. So the first struggle that you have is your own ego, your own mind. Your mind is forgetting. And this is what the Quran in history is prayer in your life. The same role. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is sending Rusul alayhim salam jami'an. Why? Because we are forgetting in history. And this is why the Quran is called what? The second name of the Quran, or the third name, or the fourth name, relying on the Suyuti, is what? Al-Dhikr. Because you have it in the Quran. Inna nahnu nazzalna al-Dhikr. Al-Dhikr is what? Al-Quran. Why? Because people in history, they were forgetting. So Allah sent the last messenger to come and to confirm what came before him. Why? Because in history, humans are forgetting the truth. So he sent Rusul. The same that we are experiencing in history is in our life. We are forgetting. And we know, some people are telling us, oh, 5 times a day you pray? Do you really need it? When you deal with your own memory, we might think, oh, I might need more than that. Because what I am doing between 2 prayers is not so good. So I might need to, okay, we know ourselves, we are experiencing this. That even between 2 prayers, we are not so remembering. So deep, so deep. When the Prophet ﷺ is saying, you know what? When you are committing a sin, you are not a believer. What does it mean? You are not aware that Allah is with you. It's as if you are forgetting. A sinner, the very moment he is committing his or her sin, is forgetting that Allah is here. If not, how would you do what you are doing? Deep, isn't it? And sometimes we know that. Everyone here knows exactly what I'm talking about. And sometimes we are playing with our own self. And say, I need a mufti to know if it's haram. Need a mufti? The Prophet ﷺ said it, Istafti qalbak, ask your heart. You know. You know exactly if it's right or wrong. So sometimes you are even playing with your own self. So there is a jihad of memory. So here, what I'm trying to say is you are resisting your own self, your own lack of memory, your own weaknesses, and yet you have to reform by doing what? Praying. By doing what? Fasting. By doing what? Giving zakat. And then your solidarity, all the good that you are doing in your life is a resistance to your own ego. To say to somebody, you know what, you have to be humble. You know, in the mystical tradition, which is the heart of Islam, get me right, true Sufism is true Islam if only we know what is true Sufism. And all the people who are saying true Sufism is not what we have today. I talked about it this morning. I said the true Sufism is to be very strict with the rules. And very strict with adding to the rules this commitment that you are changing your spirituality. So this is why all the great scholars, fuqaha, they were mystical. Even people like Ibn Taymiyyah that we don't know, he was in Al-Qadiriyah. He was himself following a very strict path. Some of the scholars, fuqaha, they never touch the Quran or come with trying to extract rules without going through prayers during the night, because they were having this fear not to be purified in the way they read the Quran. So there is a spiritual take in even reading with your mind. You get what I said now? There is a spiritual take in the way you read with your mind. Because you don't read only with your eyes, you read with your heart. إنها لا تعمل الأبصار ولكن تعمل القلوب التي في الصدور. You are blind with your heart, so you might see but you don't see. It's exactly the same with love. We have a French poet was saying, they all met me, they were seeing me, but they were not seeing me. And some of the people, when they look at you with their eyes, they see you but they don't see you. Sometimes my daughter is telling this to me. She's talking to me, I see her, but I don't see her. I say, do you see me? And of course I say yes, with my eyes. But when you are not attentive, when you are not here with your heart, when you are not here with your mind, and looking more than this, you can see without seeing. This light that is coming, light upon light, by the way, it's exactly this. It's exactly this dimension that you see with a light which is not coming only from your mind. And this is why the Quran is saying, لَهُمْ قُلُوبٌ لَا يَفْقَهُونَ بِهَا. They have hearts, but they don't understand with their heart. So your heart is telling you something which sometimes is deeper. So this is where, as Muslims here, what we have to understand is this struggle in order to reform, to resist to our own self. And we have it in the Quran. وَنَفْسٍ وَمَا سَوَّاهَا فَأَلْهَمَهَا فُجُورَهَا وَتَقْوَاهَا. So we have the two sides, something which is attracting us towards the bad and attracting us towards the best. And we are struggling. So you have to resist to what is bad in order to reform to what is good. This is what we have to do with ourselves. And then we have to do it with our society. And then we have to do it with everything in our life. So jihad is resisting and reforming. It's a double movement. And we have it, we have the very understanding is the only way for us to achieve the goal, resisting the obstacles or the hurdles on our way, and to reform this. And this is what we understand by muslihun, al-islah, which has to do with coming back to the origin, which was good. Even, when you listen to the Quran saying, إِلَّا مَنْ أَتَى اللَّهَ بِقَلْبٍ سَلِيمٍ, a sound heart. What does it mean? The heart of the beginning, the fitra of the origin, that is not veiled through, things that are preventing you from being connected to Allah. And this veil, you know what it is in Arabic. What is the meaning of this veil that is ختم الله على قلوبهم, that your heart has been sealed? The understanding of this word is what? Kufr. Kufr, kafir mean veiled first. And then meaning they cannot see the truth. But beneath the veil, there is a light. So this is why when you talk to somebody about Islam, you are not revealing something new. You are unveiling something old. It changes everything. It changes everything. But if you don't get it, ya kafir anta, as you speak in Arabic, you are an unbeliever. You are negating God. And in fact, it could be something which is just a veil that you have to remove. You have to reconcile the people with themselves in order to help them to reconcile with the transcendent, with Allah, with God. And this is another way of looking at things. Don't talk to people as if they don't have it. Talk to people understanding they don't see it. With humility. With complete humility. But that's not my point. My point is resisting and reforming. You get this? A path, goals to achieve, struggles to experience, getting this resisting process to what is bad, and the reforming process towards what is the best. So this is jihad as a concept, and we can translate this in all the fields that we have. So let me come now to the types of jihad that we have. Once again, I will take 10 examples, or ways, or fields. There are much more than that, but I don't have time. It's just to give you a kind of a vision of the comprehensive definition and the ways and the fields on which and through which we have to go and where we have to deal with them. The first one is, we know that Islam came, and our references, al-masadir, what we rely on are two. And the Prophet ﷺ told us, if you stick to them, you're not going to be lost. Al-Quran was Sunnah. Al-Quran as the very word of God, and the Sunnah is what the Prophet ﷺ said, did, or approved, or the way he was living with the companions. And by the way, the Sunnah is more than only the rules within the ahadith, is also everything which is coming from his biography, as-Sirah an-Nabawiyyah. It's very important to deal with this. And by the way, I myself, after years of talking about Islam, giving lectures, when I wrote the book, In the Footsteps of the Prophet ﷺ, I myself was transformed. It was a spiritual experience to write about the Prophet ﷺ. Many things were just, I didn't know. In fact, I knew the facts, but the meaning, the way the Prophet ﷺ was, the way he was dealing with people, and then you just try to ponder over some of the situation and change everything. The life of the Prophet ﷺ is full of teachings, lessons for us in our life. And then when you understand this, when you come to the two sources, you understand that our sources are scriptural sources. Yes? Scriptural sources. By definition, if God is sending to us texts, this is Al-Quran, and this is Al-Kitab. ذَلِكَ الْكِتَابُ لَا رَيْبَ فِيهِ. There is no doubt in this book. So this is your book. And then this is your way. لَقَدْ كَانَ لَكُمْ فِي رَسُولِ اللَّهِ أُسْوَةٌ حَسَنَةٌ. He's your model, the best model you can have. And you have to listen to what he's saying, listen to what he decided, and the way he was dealing with people. You have text. What is the first thing that you have to do is to try to understand, isn't it? You have to understand the text. The effort that you are making to get the meaning of the text is a jihad. Because there is a text, or because there are texts, the first jihad that you have to experience is intellectual jihad. And not only intellectual jihad, it's an intellectual jihad, but also a spiritual one. Why? Because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is talking to your mind, but it's talking to your heart. And this is why when you listen to the Quran, you know it's not only an intellectual experience. There are things that are coming to you through your heart that you don't get with your mind. Sometimes you have this feeling that you are at peace with the Quran when you listen to the Quran. This is the secret of the text. The text has secrets, and the first is to open your heart for these secrets to come to you and for you to be accessible, to be able. So this effort, this is why, for example, we are differentiating between al-qira'atayn. Al-qira'a, istinbat al-ahkam, extracting the rules from the Quran, understanding the rules, and al-qira'a ta'abbudiyya, which is the way you read and you worship Allah. The texts, because they are texts, are calling the Muslims, and because it talks to every one of you, even in your language, even if you read them in Malay or in English, whatever, it's not the translation is not the Quran, but the translation is bringing you the meanings, and with these meanings you have to struggle. It's an intellectual jihad. The very beginning of Islam is about this. Get it, get the meaning. And this is why سَنُرِيهِمْ آيَاتِنَا فِي الْآفَاقِ وَفِي أَنفُسِهِمْ. The signs are going to be in the horizons and in yourself. حَتَّى يَتَبَيَّنَ لَهُمْ أَنَّهُ الْحَقِّ. You will see the truth through the signs, but you need to take the effort. You need to make this. You need to be involved in it. It's not going to you without your own effort. You have to be open. And you have the story of the Prophet ﷺ. He was 35. Before he became the prophet, the messenger, he was chosen, Mukhtar. And what was he doing? He was making an effort to isolate himself for the words to come to him. He was leaving the people, isolating himself. So it's an effort for the truth to come to him, because he was in a quest for truth. This is what he was trying to experience. All the Islamic teachings go from the philosophers to the mystics to the fuqaha. They are all telling you something, because it's coming from the hadith. Come to Allah walking, He will come to you running. What does it mean? Come. You have to do the effort. So when you have the text, you have to come. So the Quran is not to be put in your shelves at home and say, I have a Quran here. It's the way you go to Him, Allah will come to you. So this is the effort. And the first for the scholars were, what does it mean? What do we have? What is this text telling me? And this text is a dialogue with yourself. Allah is sending you a message for you to talk to yourself and then to come to Him. Because when you read the Quran, you talk to yourself. And as you talk to yourself, he's listening. And he talks to you. So it's a process here. It's this first intellectual, spiritual jihad. And don't take it as something which is superficial. Why do we have this ablution and wudu coming to the Quran? It means that you have to put yourself in a spiritual state. And the scholars were always like this, very, very cautious with the way they were trying to purify themselves to get to the pure words of God and to get the understanding. So this is one. Now you have to struggle with the text, and sometimes you have to do more than that. You have to struggle with the text when the text is open for interpretation. This is why the scholars were saying they are texts, they are clear cut. There is no space for interpretation, what we call qat'i. When you read the Quran and it is said وَأَقِيمُوا الصَّلَاةِ, you have to pray. You know you have to pray. You cannot play with the words. But the majority of the Quranic verses are open for interpretation, as to the words, as to the sentences, and as to the meaning of the rules. And the scholars were dealing with this. So a dhanni, open for interpretation, means that the scholar, and sometimes yourself in some situation, you have to struggle to get the right meaning. And this is why this struggle, the sheikh, the alim, when he's trying to find the right answer and he's right, he has 2 rewards. But when he's wrong, he has 1. What does it mean? That Allah is looking at your effort to get the right answer. You might be wrong, but you did right. You might be wrong as to your answer, but you did right as your struggle and your effort to get the answer. And only by saying this, you have to be very cautious yourself. When you see the result of something, don't judge the being of somebody. You understand what I mean? Only with this hadith, you understand that sometimes, yes, the answer is wrong, but he did well. You are not here to judge the intention. The intention are with Allah. Don't judge anybody on the behavior only. Suspend your judgment. You can be very harsh with the action, but not with the people. Because they can change in few seconds. And it's the same here, that you have to struggle sometimes with the meaning of the text, and all the Islamic tradition is an intellectual jihad coming from the scholars to understand these verses that are open for interpretation. And we have to understand that this openness is a mercy. Not only a mercy because it helps us to get a better understanding, but with time, with more knowledge, with more sciences, we are changing even our understanding of the Quran. The Quran is sometimes revealed to our knowledge after centuries. So this is something which is important here. Now there is also a struggle that you are experiencing, an intellectual struggle with the text, because sometimes the text is clear-cut, you need to get the meaning. Sometimes the text is open for interpretation, and sometimes the text is silent. And the Prophet ﷺ said about Allah sending us the book, he's saying وَسَكَتَ عَنْ أَشْيَاء رَحْمَةً بِكُمْ بِغَيْرِ نِسْيَانٍ. So Allah kept silent in some issues out of mercy, not out of forgetfulness. Meaning that when silence is here, you need to take an effort. You need to be involved intellectually to get the right answer for your time. And this has to be done by scholars and sometimes by your own self in the way you are going to take a decision. You know something which is important, by the way? When you go to a scholar, look at the heavy responsibility of every one of us. When you go to a scholar and you are asking for a fatwa, what is a fatwa? A fatwa is a legal opinion coming in a specific situation where there is no clear hukm in the Quran. So you cannot find the hukm. If you had the hukm, you didn't go for a fatwa. You have it. But if there is no clear hukm, which is rule in this situation, we try to get a legal opinion from a scholar who knows about the whole message and can bring you a legal opinion. But the legal opinion is not to be imposed onto you. you can decide if you are going to follow. Alim is not going to say, I told you this is haram, this is the only way for you to follow haram. No, this is my opinion. Every fatwa is ended with something which is Wallahu a'lam, and Allah knows best. So it's not something that is imposed onto you. But what does it mean? It means that as Muslims, you have to make the effort to get an answer and then to take the responsibility to follow it or not. And this is why we have some who did not understand what it means. We have some brothers and sisters, they are tourists in the way they are looking for fatwa. They are asking some scholars and they choose the one, oh, this is a good one. In fact, they are looking for a specific fatwa, so they are ready to go to 10 scholars just to get the fatwa that they had in mind before going. And say, oh, I didn't know it's halal, so it's halal. Assalamu alaikum. You know, I have some brothers and sisters that are coming to me on my website because they heard that I'm, you know, open-minded. So they come to me just please give me permission. I say, you are not playing with rules. We're not playing with Islam. It's not a game. It's serious. There are some things that are haram. But if you are looking to halalize haram, go somewhere else. And we have this, and especially in our time with, you know, the internet and everything, this connection, some are going to go to scholars who are very harsh, because some are on the other side, have another view. When they have a scholar who is ready to say haram, they are very happy. This is him. Because they want to haramize halal. You have some people like this with this mindset. So we are both. You are caught between this one wants everything halal and the other one say haram, and you are a good scholar. If you start with haram, they are respecting you. And that's the mindset is completely wrong. And why am I saying this? Because in this, there is something which is intellectually wrong and very emotional. So this is why the intellectual jihad that we are starting with, reading our scriptural sources, إِنَّمَا الْحَلَالُ بَيِّنٌ إِنَّمَا الْحَرَامُ بَيِّنٌ. They have this is clear. There are things that we have to stick, we have to know. And part of the intellectual jihad is also to surrender. Sometimes you don't understand, but it's haram. Not everything is rational, but nothing is irrational. Because sometimes it's rational to understand that rationally you can get it. You understand what I mean? It's rational to understand that you cannot get it rationally. So it's not irrational, it's rational, acknowledging the limits of rationality. No, I'm not joking. It's serious. When, for example, in the Islamic tradition you have al-ubudiyya, is that you have to do something because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is telling you have to do something. And there is no illah, there is no ratio legis, there is no raison d'être. You have to do it because you have to do it. The scholars were saying, in fact, the raison d'être of not having a raison d'être is the raison d'être. The fact that you have no reason is the reason of that. Just for you to understand that there are limits to your rationality. Sami'na wa ata'na. We acknowledge that it's coming from God. So your rationality is challenged. So it's not irrational, it's very rational, but helping you to get intellectual humility, that you cannot get it. Because the first mistake coming from human beings is arrogance. Arrogance is the first mistake after forgetfulness. Now, having said this, what we have in the Quran, and this is the first, is us with the Quran. Now, what happened with the Prophet ﷺ? He had people coming to him telling, you are a magician, you are a liar, you are a fake, you are not a true prophet. The Prophet ﷺ was to do something when the people were coming to him. He was to make one or two, it was mainly at the beginning 1 or 2 rak'at, he was praying or prostrating and then responding to them by the way of the Quran, through the Quran. And this is what we have in the first occurrence in the Quran about jihad is about this. لا تطيع الكافرين وجاهدهم به جهادا كبيرا. Don't obey the negator or the people who are rejecting the truth and struggle with them by the means of the Quran. Bihi, the scholars, the Mufassirun, were saying is the Quran. Meaning what? An intellect. So it's also to respond to them. So the first struggle when the people are attacking you is not to kill them, is to respond to them. They might want to kill you and you want to teach them. You know the difference? You can try to kill me, I'm just here to serve you. And it might be that by you trying to kill me, me trying to serve you, I will transform you for the better. Resisting, reforming. The way you respond to the people. And this is why so many people, we have in the seerah of the Prophet ﷺ, they were surprised by the way he was resisting their attacks and their aggressivity. He was responding in a way which was so noble that the way he was resisting was a way to reform. You know this woman that was throwing crash just on his way, and then the only day she didn't do it, he went to see if she was not sick. What happened with you? What's wrong with you today? You're not insulting me. We, when we are insulted, we will be the first to respond. Isn't it? The struggle here is about mastering your emotions and understanding how to respond. So between you and your emotion, the Quran is here and should be the way you respond. And this is where you get وَعِبَادُ الرَّحْمَنِ. The people who are serving God, when the people are attacking it, وَإِذَا خَاطَبَهُمُ الْجَاهِلُونَ قَالُوا سَلَامًا. So the Quran is helping you to come. So there is here an intellectual jihad between us and the text, and there is an intellectual jihad between us and the people who are insulting, who are criticizing, who are rejecting. And we have to be very cautious. لا تسبوا الذين يدعون من دون الله فيسبوا الله عدوا بغير علم. Something which is very important. Don't insult them, even if they are insulting you, because if you are the first to insult them, you are responsible on the fact that they are going to respond to you and insult you. Be careful. You are responsible of the fact that the way they are going to respond to you, that's a very important thing. Don't say, if you insult and they insult, you are responsible of them insulting by the way you started insulting. Wow. That's deep. That's important. If you say to somebody that, look at you, you're insulting me, but you were the first, and say, and so what? Yes, no, so what? You were the first. So you're responsible. And this is very important in everything. The way you oppress will have an impact on the way the people are resisting. So you are responsible. Don't come to the victims of oppression and tell them, why are you using weapon? You know why? Because the oppressors are using weapon. So you are responsible. I'm always quoting Mandela in this. The weapons of the resistance are decided by the oppression of the oppressors and the weapons of the oppressors. You come with weapon, we have the right to resist. So you decide. But don't tell us that we are wrong to resist, because you decide to kill, we are obliged to resist. So the means are used, are decided, are chosen by the oppressors. So here we have something which has to do with responding to the people. So the way we deal with the text, the way we respond to the people. Now, what we know, all of us, and I said it, so I will just go through this very quickly, is the second dimension of jihad is the jihad with the self. So this is jihad al-nafs, which has two dimensions, is purification, coming back to the sound heart, and then also it's reforming ourselves. So this is the struggle against our own ego, our own arrogance, our lack of humility. This is a jihad that we all know. And what does it mean? I resist myself in order to reform myself, to be a better person. And this is al-akhlaq. Al-akhlaq are all based on this. It's so much the case that the Prophet ﷺ is saying, I was only sent to do this, to achieve this. إِنَّمَا بُعِثْتُ لِأُتَمِّمَ مَكَارِمِ الْأَخْلَاقِ. I was sent to achieve this, which is to complete the good character, the good behavior, السلوك الناس. So in order for you to be morally educated, you have to go through this intimate jihad. And by the way, this is not Sufism, this is Islam. So the problem that we have now is that we have people who are completely obsessed with rules. We have people completely obsessed with politics. People completely obsessed with economics. People completely obsessed with cultures. And people completely obsessed with the mystical side. And all this is Islam. The problem that we have is obsession. Obsession. The trend is the right one. This is wrong. No, come together. Because at the heart of Islam, there is this purification of the self. This is Islam. Don't let this be colonized by people saying, this is the only path, is the Sufi side. No, this is Islam. So, Sufism is the heart. But you cannot go in this path without understanding that you need rules. As-salah, salah. Don't tell me that you are with Allah 24 hours. No, you have to pray. You have to fast. And you have some Sufi trends, you go to them, say, are you fasting today during Ramadan? Say, no, the Sheikh is fasting for me. Oh, that's good. Which type of Islam is this? Which type of Sufism is this? This is the pure betrayal. So we are so competing, we don't understand that we need to link all this. We need to be very strict with our rules, not forgetting the meanings, the spiritual meaning. Don't only pray without understanding that you have to try to purify yourself at the same time. And this is the struggle. This is the jihad an-nafs. This is purification. And you have to know something which is important. Ruhama baynahum. Get some mercy. Don't be too harsh with yourself. Of course you are going to make mistakes. Of course you are going to make or to indulge in sins. Of course. And you have to struggle to be better. But don't end up with this very quick conclusion, if I'm doing this, it's because Allah doesn't like me. I told you, don't play the victim. This is a test. Stand up and struggle. This is it. This is the understanding that we need to have, to struggle. So stand up and try to do your best, even with your own self. Resisting, reforming. So this is the third one. And now there is something which is what we did, and I said this when I was in Mauritius. We did it in fact also in Europe, and I saw this on the ground with people not using this concept, is social jihad. What does it mean? It means, for example, that we have to launch a jihad against poverty in our society. In fact, it's rooted in our tradition. The fact that we have to pay zakat is haqqun ma'loom. This is the right of the poor people. They have rights on our money. So if they have rights, I have to resist my own selfishness, resisting and reforming by giving. Solidarity, it's not something which is only I give you if I want. This is sadaqah. I give you because I must, and this is a must, this is an obligation, this is a social purifying tax that you have to pay. So as Muslims, there is a social jihad. Stop talking about power and politics and displaying the people are playing. Serve the people. Show that you are playing in politics and involved in politics by being a social actor. Because we are confusing politics with power, while politics should be serving. The Prophet ﷺ was the leader serving the followers. Now we have leaders, they just want... okay. I don't want to involve in politics now, even though all what I said, you got me. In two ways. Okay. So this is very important. About, for example, implementing justice. There's social jihad against poverty, but also social jihad against racism. You have a problem in Malaysia. We have a problem in Africa. We have a problem in the West. That in Islam there is a goal that we should achieve. What is this goal? You, black man, you, Asian man, you, woman, you, white man, you, rich man, you, poor man, in front and before Allah we are all equal. That's the goal. I say, yes, that's good, but that's not the reality. For some you try to come, or if your daughter or your son come with someone who is not exactly the same color, or not exactly the same culture, or if he or she is a convert, We don't judge the heart, we judge the form. This is racism. It's not Islamic. It's not. And in this society, we have cultural discrimination. So this is the social jihad. Resist any type of racism. And it's deep, huh? It's very deep. It's very deep. Very deep. If, for example, you are a Jew and you convert to Islam, you better try not to make a mistake. So you know what? He's a Jew. He was a Jew. I'm not joking. Muhammad Asad, Leopold Weiss, translated the Quran. And he came with 6 points where the scholars in Saudi Arabia, they were not happy with his translation. And I still think that at least on 4 points, he was right, they were wrong. On 2 points, I disagreed with him. What we got from the scholars in Saudi Arabia, never forget, he was a Jew. What's that? This is what? Racism. It's pure anti-Semitism, and anti-Semitism is anti-Islamic. Because هم من أهل الكتاب. So you can't be against Israel and the state of Israel and Zionists and what they are doing. You can't just target the Jews because they are Jews, because this is not your tradition. That's not your tradition. And now when somebody converts to Islam, you come say, I'm doubting his knowledge. I'm sorry, I'm doubting your sincerity and your understanding of Islam. So here there is something which is deep in our understanding of jihad. When it comes to social jihad, poverty, justice, racism, equality. Equality is a very important one. And now there is something which is coming out of this, and I want to highlight this because I know it was misused in some way or misunderstood, which is something that we are dealing with, which has to do with the relationship and our understanding of men and women in our tradition. And you know that Amina Wadud, that was criticized for what she said about praying and leading the prayers and what she did in New York, she wrote a book called Gender Jihad. But there is something which you may agree or disagree on some points. I think that there are some of the issues where we have to be critical. But there is something which is right in what she says. There is something which is not right in the way Muslims are dealing with the issue of women and men. I'm not saying only women. I'm saying we have a problem in the way we deal with men and women in Islam today. With women, because very often we are confusing between the cultures of origin and what Islam is about. In the way, I'm sorry, the great scholars that I respect, I wrote about Abu Hamid al-Ghazali. He was so deep mind, but he was influenced by the culture of his time. For him, the relationship between man and woman is the relationship between a servant and a master. So the Arab and Persian cultures had an impact on him. That's fine, you can be a great mind and being a human being influenced by culture, but that's not right. So today we have to recapture the essence of the text and not accepting the cultural interpretation. Tabari, when he talks about the way you have to treat your wife and the violence that he's mentioning, that's not right. That's not Islam. It's him being influenced by the culture of the time. So we have to come with a new discourse, and as 99% of the Islamic tradition was written in the past by men in patriarchal cultures, you can't come today and say this is the final word of Islam. No, this is an interpretation of a specific time. And we have to come to what the text is saying and what the texts are saying. And what are the principles? This is very important. I don't think that, for example, the headscarf is a cultural thing. I think it's a prescription. That's, for me, it's clear. But there is a difference between saying this and then coming to, you cannot work, you cannot do this, you cannot do that, you are not even have the right to say yes or no when you come to marriage, and we have arranged marriage and sometimes forced marriages. This is not Islamic. And in our mosque, I'm sorry to tell you, when you come back to the Prophet ﷺ and you see the way women were coming in the mosques, and you see what the Arabs are doing now with the mosque, you are better on this than many Arab countries. When you come in some of your mosques, at least the few I visited, I'm not sure that it's every time like this, but you see that this is right. This is right. There is a space. We are respecting our sisters, and there is a place where they come. Go in some countries in the Arab world, there is no space, and even now in the West, we are regressing. The Prophet ﷺ was giving space to women. We don't. And say, oh no, the West doesn't like us. This is what they are targeting our women. No, they are targeting our women, and they are targeting us because we are opening the door for being targeted. Our responsibility. And this is where, for example, and this is what I was saying, 99% of the discourses and things that were written about Islam and women in Islam were written by men, and they are talking about women as wife and daughter and mother. No, let us have a discourse on women as women. And by the way, I would like to have the same with men as men. Because the West is telling us, oh, you have a problem with women. And what I see in our communities today is we have problem with men. Where are you? Where are the men? Where are the people who are trying to get knowledge, who are going to be involved? Not understanding that their position is a position of authority because their wife is saying to the kids, if you don't do this, I'm telling your father. Yes, I'm here. This position of authority which is not serving, which is not playing the right role in our society. We have a problem of old traditions where our role in the past is no longer the same. In all the standards when it comes to education, our sisters are doing better than men in everything which has to do with education. Get it right. Now you go to the West, even here. You go to some sisters, say, you know what, you only have to marry a man, Muslim man. And this is the Islamic teaching, isn't it? But she's right if you say, where are they? Are they educated? Are they making are they achieving what we are expecting from them? We have now women that are much more educated than men. And we are coming and we are expecting that we come with the traditional way of dealing with things that are completely changing. And men are going through, take it as I'm saying it, an identity crisis. Yes. And I mean it. Now you can just pretend that you don't know what I'm talking about. So there is a struggle here. Coming from this, there is another struggle which is following this, which is the cultural jihad. And the cultural jihad is exactly what I'm talking about, taking the case studies of women and men, but it's in everything. What in your culture is good and what is not good. Every culture should be challenged. There are things in the Malay culture, in the Malaysian culture, even beyond the Malay, and when you take the Chinese and everything, that are not good. There are things in the Arab cultures that are not good. They are even anti-Islamic. We have to challenge this. This is a cultural jihad, resisting what is bad in our culture and reforming what is better. Never take a culture as a given that you cannot change. You should reform we should reform our cultures. And even if you go even at the center, if you go and you go to Hajj, you see how the people are dealing there and say, wow, there is something wrong here. The cultural jihad is important. Is how do we resist to our culture and to be selective. Even us in the West, we have to do exactly the same. There are many things in the West that are more Islamic than things that we find in Muslim majority countries. The way we deal with time, the way we deal with human beings, of course, is more Islamic. So you have to be selective. You have to go to a struggle and to resist everything which is bad. We are doing exactly the opposite. We take from the West everything which is bad and we reject what is good. This is the way we are doing it. It's not a jihad. It's a rendition. It's something that is wrong in the way we are dealing. We also have to deal with something that I would urge you to understand is one of the main challenges, is the artistic jihad. Artistic jihad, it's important. In Islam, you know, look at all the first scholars when they were talking about what is the end, what are you trying to achieve in this life? You want to achieve peace with Allah, peace with yourself, peace with the world. And peace is a sense, in the falasifa, they were always talking about sa'ada. When you listen to al-azan, it's beautiful, isn't it? And the first one has a beautiful voice. Bilal radiallahu anh, had a beautiful voice, and he was calling. And he was calling the people, Hayya ala al-falah, success, salvation. And all this was done in a beautiful way. Beauty is helping you to understand in this life what you want to achieve in the hereafter, which is well-being, feeling good. El-nafs al-mutma'inna, when you struggle, el-nafs al-ammara, el-nafs al-lawama, el-nafs al-mutma'inna, and you have many other states here, it's to feel good. How are you going to feel good? Well-being is to be at peace. It's not only by praying. Why is it that you feel closer to Allah when al-imam has a nice voice? Have you not experiencing this? A nice voice makes you fly. A not so nice voice make you wait for the end. It's always done. With some, with the beauty, you forget the time. Some, with the lack of beauty, you are doing it in a way which it's too heavy. It means that imagination, beauty, Allahu Jamil yuhibbul Jamal, means you have to struggle. But you have to do it in a way which is professional. Allah yuhibbu idha amala ahadukum amala an yutqina. You have to master what you are doing. Not the type of, Islamic anashid and arts that we have. It's as if we are 8 years old. It's for the kids. No, we have something which is sophisticated. You as a human being, you sometimes, once Sheikh Muhammad Ghazali, he was listening to classical music. And he was, and the kind of Salafi entered his room. You, Sheikh? Classical music, haram? I say, you know what? First, his opinion on this, you know that you have many opinions, and you have to respect the many opinions. There is one opinion saying that as long as you are not forgetting Allah, there is no problem with music. You have some say haram, okay, if it's haram for you, it's haram for you, don't listen. I don't know how you're going to do it today, but that's fine. You don't want to listen to music, don't listen to music. But don't say to somebody who is listening to music that this is haram. There are opinions on this. And he was saying, look, he came to me with this harsh way of telling me it's haram. While when I was listening to this music, I was making dhikr and remembering Allah. It helped me because it's beautiful and it's helping you to come back to. So there is a way to come. Arts is right. Nothing wrong with this. Except if you have this narrow-minded understanding, if you are very deep in your faith, if you feel bad. That's the difference between, the difference between Rabi'a al-Adawiyya and Hassan al-Basri. Hassan al-Basri was dealing with the Sufi trend, az-Zuhd, and he was always sad. Rabi'a al-Adawiyya was talking much more about love. The two are ways that you can decide. Love, it's about look at nature, this beauty. And the Prophet ﷺ was looking and crying when he was looking at the beauty of the universe. So here you have something which is essential. Artistic jihad, it's important. And we want people, professionals, at the highest level of this imagination, creativity, respecting the rules but opening horizons. The rules should not close the horizons. We have to open up. And this is also something which is important. And then you also have the political jihad. And political jihad is important. Is not only to seek power, is to resist power. The most important political struggle is counter-power. If you read the book Radical Reform, I'm talking, in one chapter I'm talking about counter-power, resisting and reforming. But the first is, when it comes to the structure, is transparency, is equality, is to listen to the people. I'm not talking about the models. You have to find your own model wherever you are. But you have to struggle at least for transparency, respect of the people, because this is a shura, amruhum shura baynahum, and also no corruption. And when I speak about corruption in Malaysia, you can smile. And you know what? You can smile everywhere. That's the problem. And in some countries, more than others. And I let you decide which country. But that's the reality. Corruption, meaning people using power to make money, to impose their views. We have to deal with this. This is something which is important. And don't tell me you don't do politics. We are all, as citizens, as human beings, we have to deal with this. We have to take a stance when it comes to power, when it comes to corruption, in the way we deal with it, and the way we want to be respected as subjects, as citizens, as human beings, dignified human beings. That's very important. Don't let anyone, because he or she has power, mistreat you, because you have to get it right. It's coming from the Quran. وَلَقَدْ كَرَّمْنَا بَنِي آدَمَ. We give dignity with human beings. So you, whatever power you have, you better treat me with dignity. You know what it means? There is no political jihad without courage and commitment. All this, it's part of it. And as I said, the economic jihad is also something which is important, but not with adding Islam here and there to make it Islamic finance, Islamic economy. No, it's to challenge the very essence of what we are talking about. Economy serving humanity, not humanity serving economic powers. Transnational corporation dealing with us as if we were means and not ends and not dignified people. So this is where we have to deal with, and it's something which is important. When I was writing the book about the Middle East and the so-called Arab Spring, and I said I don't believe in this, and this was before it happened, and when it happened, and the people were saying you are wrong. I was telling them, be careful. You are looking at what is happening to the political angle, and the true equation is economy. This is about economy. They don't care about democracy. They care about markets. If you understand what is happening, how they were dealing with this, and coming back to the field. So this is something which is important. The last point is, and you see after the 9 jihads that I was talking about, is qital. Qital is one form of jihad. It's the armed jihad. And it's called qital. Al-qital is when you are resisting oppression. So this is where it's important. وَأَعِدُّ لَهُمْ مَا اسْتَطَعْتُم مِّن قُوَّةٍ وَمِن رِبَاطِ الْخَيْلِ. So this is, you have to be prepared, because the people are going to come to you. You have to be ready for the struggle. وَقَاتِلُوا الَّذِينَ يُقَاتِلُونَكُمْ. So you have to resist the people who are. So this is what we call the defensive resistance, or the legitimate resistance. And the weapons here are to be used, or to be chosen as in the light of what the oppressors are doing. And there is ethics of war. You cannot kill innocent people. You cannot kill children. You cannot kill women. You cannot kill religious people, and you have to protect nature. So even in the way we are dealing with the people who are oppressing us and exploiting us, we have to resist with the right means, understanding one thing, that we have to be very clear as to the goals. They have to be ethical, and we have to use our means. They have to be ethical as well. We have to deal with ethical means in order to get ethical, to achieve the ethical goals. And you know what means here in all these instances, all what I said about the 10 types of jihad. The goal of every jihad is peace. Even when you are resisting the oppressor, what you want is peace with its condition: justice, dignity, and freedom. You are not going to let the people oppress you or kill you. You have to resist. This is legitimate, and this is the dignity of humanity, to have people resisting the oppression of others. And then what we want is peace based on dignity, justice, and freedom and equality. This is what we want. So jihad is not the way towards war. Jihad is the way towards peace. It's true with ourselves. It's true in our society. It's true with our culture. It's true. It's all about peace. Well-being, peace. Women and men together, peace. At home, peace within the society. Against poverty, peace. Against social injustice, peace. This is what we are trying to do. All our jihads are for the sake of peace in all these fields. We are people, agents of peace. And we are ready to struggle for it. We are ready for the fight with our own self. You get this? It's the other way. It's returning the whole thing in this, and this is something which is important. Having said that, I come to my conclusion. So any one of you here, and sometimes I'm talking to non-Muslims and I'm telling them, you are in a jihad. I say, what? Yes. You don't know, but you are a mujahid. Some of them who are doing much more than us when they are struggling against injustice. Some of them are very dignified in the way they are not Muslims, but they are resisting and they are reforming. Some are doing much more than us, and you can see in them the signs that are lacking in us. And this is why Allah put them in front of you. Everyone who is better than you and he is not a Muslim is calling you to be a better Muslim. Not for you to look at him and say, you know what, that's nothing. Why? You are not a Muslim. Judging even the good. And saying it's a state of, of arrogance that you have. That's unbelievable. You know the people who are like this, with this mindset? They are just revealing an inferiority complex. Because you are not ready to look at what is good in the others, you take the angle where you can judge them as worse than you. No, I'm sorry to tell you, there are some people of other faiths who are more dignified than Muslims. So this is where everyone who is worshipping Allah, a believer, a mu'min, is by definition a mujahid. And you should be a mujahid. Mujahid when it comes to your nafs, mujahid in all the fields that I mentioned, a mujahid. Al-mu'min mujahid, by definition. So you can't avoid the word. You have to recapture its meaning. That's one. The second is we need to understand that everything is going to come with al-kasb. And I don't know if you heard about this very long philosophical, theological, religious discussion between al-mutakallimun and the Ash'ara and al-Maturidiyya, and they were talking about al-kasb. Are you the creator of your own action or not? And al-Maturidiyya came with the position, in between position, saying at the end you are responsible for your action and you are going to be rewarded. Muktasab. It means that al-kasb is coming to you. You are responsible. So whatever is you take on the fact that everything is decided. Yes, everything is decided, but we don't know what is decided, and our freedom comes up from our ignorance. So we have to struggle. You can't just before say maktub. Maktub is after it happened. And get it right. Insha'Allah is not what we say to remain passive. Insha'Allah is the hope of the active people. It's not the justification of the passive people. Insha'Allah is not to be passive and say Insha'Allah, as we say in Egyptian, ma'alesh, or Insha'Allah. And as a kid, every time I was listening to my mother saying inshallah, in my mind it meant no, we are not going to make it. So I was always saying no inshallah. And many of you have experienced that. So when you have your father in mind, inshallah, I say, can't dream about it. Anyway, inshallah is the weapon of the active full of hope, not the justification of the passive with no action. So this is where we have to understand the meaning of al-kazb here. And then to worship wherever you are, you get it right. The Prophet ﷺ arrived coming from Mecca to Medina. This was the time he was having a peaceful resistance, and he was to start an armed resistance and setting a society. Between armed resistance, setting a society and a community, and passive resistance, he said to the people, Ifshu salam. So as worshippers, wherever you are, you should be these agents that are spreading peace with its condition. I want peace, so I have to struggle with my own self. I want peace in the society, I have to struggle for justice. I want peace in the society, I have to struggle against corruption. I want peace with myself and well-being, I have to be creative with art. Not this art that is troubling my heart, but new art that is helping me to get this inner peace. So this is the resistance. You have to be agents of peace, meaning ready to resist and ready to reform. Inshallah. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. I have a personal fatwa. And I keep on repeating this. And it's not a joke and it's not simple. I want you to think about that. Because very often when the people are listening to me, all this business of clapping, I'm not Salafi on that, saying clapping is haram, bid'ah. I think it's fine to clap. It's a cultural positive thing. But sometimes with some talks, sometimes, you want to have speakers with a quality that are bringing to you something. And I would say think about that. Sometimes, for your own ego, for your own meditation, listen to some talks as you read books. Sometimes you have good ideas, good things. If you are alone with the book, what do you do when you are reading something which is good? You ponder, you stop, you think about it. You don't clap. No, I'm serious about that. It's something which I would like to have some gathering with people. When they start listening, we are silent, and we end the talk, we are listening and not clapping. Just something which is a spiritual take in the way you deal with yourself and the way you deal with me. Because how can I take this clapping? At the end, why are you clapping? Are you clapping because of the substance, because of the speaker, or because of the habit? That's it. If you like the speech, silence, meditation, and that's good. Just imagine you end a talk with no clapping. Wow. And it's a way to pray, isn't it? Wallahu a'lam. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Hopefully we can all think about what he just said. Okay, off to the Q&A, no time to waste. The way we want to do the Q&A is two ways. Number one, you can ask directly. There are two mics over there and over there. Or you can text the questions to this number. Not my number, by the way. Not that that matters. It's 011 010. It's all. Sorry, I didn't see that. That was not embarrassing at all. So this is the number. Text your questions to this number. I'll receive it right here, and I'll ask the professor directly. Or you can ask him directly. You have that option too. Okay, so off to you guys. I'll just bring this over there. Should I do that? No, I shouldn't do that.
You want me to stay here?
Yeah.
Oh,
I have no choice.
is that fine?
I will come. Just, I think for the camera.
The mic.
And the mic, they're recording your voice.
Okay.
Why? Some questions.
You have a tissue.
There's one question on the system.
Bismillah. Okay.
Assalamualaikum. My question is, when we are relating to jihad, the first thing which comes to the mind of people, or one of the incentives, is martyrdom. So, in context to all the different kinds of jihad you spoke about, people usually relate martyrdom to the only one, like the last one, the qital. So, if we die in our struggle for the other 9 kinds, do we still receive the same kind and same treatment of the martyrs of the qital?
You're interested in the reward. Allahu A'lam, to start with. Allahu A'lam. It depends on many things. But by the way, in the Islamic tradition, in the ahadith, there are many. Shahada is related not only to qital, it's related even sometimes in some of the disease. If you know, for example, the stomachache and some, it's even up to this. So we have different types. Now, depending on your intention and what you are doing, as long as you are doing this for the sake of Allah and you end up dying or being killed or whatever could happen, even being sick out of this, the reward is to Allah and your intention. No one can decide this for you except the knowledge of Allah. Allah only knows about this. And this is why you have to be very, very cautious with judging the people and even the reward of the people. It might be that in this room, many people, you know, I have been trying to struggle 30 years of my life, traveling, coming here, giving talk. It might be that some people are invisible in this room and they are going to be rewarded much more than the one who is visible. Be careful with the visible and care about the invisible. So I would say it depends of the sincerity of your intention. So this is why we have to renew our intention always. إنما الأعمال بالنيات. It's very deep, this, and Al-Bukhari was even referring to this hadith as the one which is very well 350 abwab or chapters in everything that has to do with what we are doing. So إنما الأعمال بالنيات means it's not only the way we have to judge the actions, it's the way Allah is looking at our heart and He knows. التقوى ها هنا. God consciousness is inside and He knows. So some people are going to be killed, and it might be that they wanted it to be known. Even with your life. So we have to be very cautious. Don't judge the people, just say Allahu A'lam and try your best to be sincere with what you are doing.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Well, I just want to ask about the current issues about the Paris attack. The Paris attack is basically it's because of the caricature of the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So I just want to know how we're going to deal with this kind of attack from the West. And even last week I read inside a website called Christian Today. One of the priests mentioned about is as to compare between the attack done by the jihadists towards the police in Paris, it is more childish to compare with the caricature. You mean caricature is just a small thing which the Muslim want to attack the police. You know what I'm saying? Like let's say Muslim has taken a huge action to kill people just because of the caricature. That was the police said to the society. So how to deal with this kind of people who always how to deal with the non-Muslim who attack us in terms of this kind of like media, the caricatures and all that. So and how do you think about the killing people? How do you think about the killing people, the innocent people?
You're asking me if I find this good.
How do you think? Because we are not really sure about whether the.
You're not sure.
We are not sure the people who did the killing are Muslims, right? They're not really sure because they are wearing masks. So how to deal with this kind of thing?
Okay, let me try to put some order in my answers, because I think that what you are saying it's important. Let me start with the way you were putting your question. You know, I started this discussion this evening by telling you have to be very strict with the terminology and the definitions, not for the others, but for ourselves. So you started your question, and I'm not taking this against you, but just for the sake of clarity. You say, how are we going to deal with the West? No, be careful. The West is not to be reduced to some of these actions, and many people in the West, they don't like what Charlie Hebdo was doing. Even before the killing, this magazine was sold 60,000 copies only. It's only after what happened that they sold 7 million. But before, the people were not very much attracted by this. And even in my discussion with many people in Europe, they were against this. And for example, you had a TV presenter in Britain talking to a French lady that wanted to show the caricature, and she said, no, that's not, we don't want to show this. So she apologized because she tried. The French woman was trying to do that. So don't confuse and reduce and generalize by saying the West. No, some. And some are saying, and as I am saying, I'm a Westerner. I'm a Western Muslim. And I'm saying they have the right to do that. This is freedom of expression. I want two things. The same freedom for everybody. And second, I also have the freedom to ignore them. To say that what they are doing is wrong. And when I was talking to them, 3 years ago we had, because for the last 7 years, this magazine, satirical magazine, changed, and they were targeting only the Muslims, the more stigmatized people. And I was telling them, your sense of humor is the sense of humor of the coward. You're not targeting, because at the beginning they were targeting the President de Gaulle. This was courage. Now you're targeting the Muslims. You think that nothing is going to come. And this is very easy today. And even them, it was not the courage, even if they were killed. In fact, nobody expected this to happen. Courage is when you know the danger, and they didn't even think that something like this could happen. We didn't think that something like this could happen. So our position on this is, and should be, I think, and this is what I said from the very beginning. I was one of the first when the Salman Rushdie affair started by saying the fatwa against Salman Rushdie was not religious, was political. It was an instrumentalization of bringing the people against him. And I said it straight away by saying I'm not supporting this. I don't like what he wrote, but I'm not supporting a call for killing. I don't. And today, when I was in Denmark, when this happened with the cartoons, I told the Muslims, take a critical distance. Don't be involved with this. This is a provocation. And they want you to fall into the trap. So you have to be clear on the fact we don't like it. That's wrong for us. It's not the right way to use your rights. Because when you have rights, you have a responsibility to use your rights in the right way. This is what we are saying. Now you want to ridicule, you want to insult, go ahead. But we are going to ignore what you are doing. Our power is beyond what you do by ignoring what you do, because what you do is too low for us to fall into the trap. It's not dignified. وَإِذَا خَاطَبَهُمُ الْجَاهِلُونَ قَالُوا سَلَامًا سَلَامًا. Even with a smile, Salamu alaykum. You insult, peace be with you, one day. And you leave them. It's very difficult, but it's the way. Now, having said that, I'm not saying that we should say, yes, you have the right, and not to show our own stance on this. We have to be vocal. I don't like it. I don't like what you are doing. I don't like you smiling and laughing and ridiculing my values and a man who is my messenger that I love. So to express in a wise way our love, our principles, in a dignified way, and let the people decide. If you want to insult, that's up to you. And don't do what was done by people say, oh, you are insulting the Muslims, you are going to insult the Jews to show you that you have double standard. As if we don't know that they are double standard. You want to prove this to whom? To us, because we are happy, of course they are double standards. That there are things that you can say about Muslims that you cannot say about others, of course, and not only the Jews. The rich people, the dominant culture, there are things that you cannot say. Are you in a competition for the bad, or are we in competition for the good? We are in a competition for the good. So whatever you say which is bad, we are not going to respond with the same means. We are beyond that. And this is the meaning of the verses. لا تسبوا الذين يدعون من دون الله فيسبوا الله عدوا بغير علم. So you don't have to start this struggle in the. So this is one. The second is, what about what they did and the people who did this? And my take on this, and it started in '96 when some Muslims killed Swiss citizens, and then in 2001 in the States. We need to be very clear to avoid being paranoid and to avoid the questions. If you have somebody, whoever he or she is, saying, I'm doing this in the name of Islam, you, as a Muslim, you have to take a stance. By saying, I heard that this was done in the name of Islam, I'm saying that this has nothing to do with my religion, or this is anti-Islamic. This is what I said in the States. And this is what I said. I condemn what they said, because what we heard from them is, it's a revenge. It's the Prophet's revenge against these people. And we are doing it in the name of Islam. So as Muslims, you cannot say, oh, you know what? By the way, they are not Muslims. And you give the impression that you're avoiding the question. The real question that the people have is, can you do this in the name of Islam? No. So you take a stand. Now, are you stopping here? No. You know, when I was talking to in a French program in the radio, I was dealing with somebody who said, you know what, when we listen to you, Tariq Ramadan, it's always yes, but. And I told him, no. It's yes, and. And it's not the end of the story. You have to come to a deeper discussion. It's not but. I'm not justifying afterward. It's absolute condemnation. And now let us come to the deep questions. What they did, and saying that this is in the name of Islam, never. Muslims are condemning, and they can't support that in the name of the Islamic principles. And now let us come to some of the questions that we have. First, about what happened. How come these people are coming in a so easy way in Paris and coming to Charlie Hebdo knowing that they have a meeting in the morning and missing the right door, asking somebody which door, while they were knowing where the meeting had to take place. How come they left an identity card again? How come are they so sophisticated to kill and so silly to leave things to be found straight away? And my take on this, I'm not coming with a conspiracy theory. I have legitimate questions. And I want an independent inquiry. And I started to ask this in the States. We want an independent inquiry. We need to know what happened exactly. And don't tell us it's state secrets. Because even in London, when I was involved in this discussion about what happened, so many things are not clear. We don't have questions. So I have some questions. And if you don't want me to start being paranoid, answer the questions. And I'm not the only one. So be clear on this. It's dealing with facts. They said this, I condemn. Now I have some questions about what happened. How come, for example, you are monitoring them and they are using the mobiles of their wives and they are communicating and you are not aware? And you tell us we don't have the right to monitor the wives? This is intelligence? Is this what you want me to think? It's so obvious. So this is the questions that I have, and I kept on mentioning. And some of the journalists are saying, oh, he's very smart. He has a conspiracy mind, but he don't say it. And I'm saying, as long as you are not coming with me, saying that there are questions that have to be asked and answered, you are blindly supporting a narrative that is not helping us to solve the problem. Because we have many Muslims are saying this is not done by Muslims. This is not, they were not involved. And you know this. This is where in Malaysia you come and you listen to the Muslims and you hear it. A plot. We don't know who was behind the whole thing. My questions are legitimate questions on troubling facts. That's it. I want an independent inquiry. This is one. Second, after and, I have questions. And what are the reasons? So we have to go deeper and not to condemn the consequences. We have to ask, why are they behaving like this? Why some are involved? And why it's happening in, for example, in Iraq and Syria? What are the reasons? Don't tell me these are consequences only because it's coming from a religious understanding. Of course they have a distorted religious understanding, but they also have a political stance that we have to understand. If somebody is telling you, we are killing you here because you are killing us there, you have to check your foreign policy. Not to justify what they did, but to answer the question they have about the fact that France, in fact, is at war in the Middle East, supporting the alliance and killing innocent people over there. So we have to deal with the causes, the reasons, and we have questions. But we have a point now in the West, with some of the, not in the West with all the people, with Western governments, the States or Britain or France, they want to differentiate between condemning the consequences and not questioning their policies. So Tony Blair was saying there is no link between killing innocent people in London and killing in Iraq. And he's right, we cannot justify killing innocent people in London. But he's wrong because he's saying it himself. What you are doing in our countries is why we are going to do it here. So we have to question, to answer this question. What is your foreign policy? Why is it that all the Arabs and the Asians and the global South, they have this impression that the life of Arabs, Asians, and people from Africa have less value than the white, rich, middle-class people in the West? Why is it? Because they are against your civilization? No, because they are questioning your policies. because they are questioning the fact that one Israeli has more value than 2,000 Palestinians. And they have the right to question. So this is why we have to come with this question. So you see is clear condemnation and questions about what happened and dealing with the reasons, the causes. And this is why we have. And not to deny straight away they are not Muslims, it's not done by us. I don't buy this. Not even, it's not a strategy. I don't buy this stance. Because Muslims should be clear on what is Islamic and what is not. And if somebody is doing something in the name of your religion, take a stance. And then ask the right questions. Don't avoid responding by having the questions that are not helping the discussion to occur. Wallahu a'lam.
Could you answer this one question? Could you read it?
Yes. What is the real meaning of pluralism when it dealing with interreligious society? All religion same. Recognize of other religion existence part of social jihad.
So pluralism in a
Yes,
multi-religious
pluralism. So come back to what the Prophet ﷺ was saying. He arrived in Medina, and in Medina you had people of other faiths. You have Christians and you have Jews. And the most structured community were the Jewish communities, not only tribes, by the way, there were more than one. And then he started to organize the society. He said about the Jews, لَهُمْ مَلَنَا وَعَلَيْهِمْ مَعَلَيْنَا. They have the same rights and the same duties as us. In a society, when we speak about pluralism, we should respect the two principles: freedom of conscience and freedom of worship. Freedom of conscience means that no one has the right to say, as a Muslim, to a Christian, to a Jew, to a Buddhist, to a Hindu, this is what you have to believe. Freedom of conscience is I believe what I want to believe because this is my choice. So you respect this. Second, if this is my conscience and this is what I believe, I also think that I need to practice my rituals and my religion, so freedom of worship. So you have to be free to worship the way you want. Now, that's also something which is important. Let the people believe and let the people practice. And this is pluralism. This is the right way of being with human beings, acknowledging first that we all are human beings and we are equal. Remember the Prophet ﷺ, the procession came and he stood up and the Muslims was surprised. He's a Jew, and said, is he not a soul, a human being? So he's showing respect to somebody who's not from his religion. And he did this with the young guy that he was educating for years. So we have to show respect and let the people, freedom of conscience and freedom of worship are essential. Now, as long as the people are visible with and they are dealing with their things and they are respectful of the public order, respectful of the other religion, let the people express themselves. Don't be scared. You don't have to impose. I don't want. You know what they want in many Western societies? They want Muslims to be invisible. We don't want to see you. So we go to the West, non-Muslim majority countries, and we are saying freedom of conscience, freedom of worship. We should be visible the way we want, as long as we respect the legal framework. And we come to Muslim majority countries, we don't want to see you. You don't have rights. And they are right to tell us, to tell Muslims, there is a discrepancy between the rights you want here and the rights you give there. And they are right. And my point, my response to them is, very often in Muslim majority countries we are dealing with dictators. So not only the religious minorities are oppressed, but all the people. So don't make me responsible. Because in fact, if I ended up in Europe, it was supposed to be applying the dictatorships over there. This is why I'm in Europe, by the way. I was born because of the Egyptian dictatorship. So that's the reality of it. So I'm not going to pay the price. But I have a moral duty to make it clear that the rights I want for myself in the West should be the rights the people have in Muslim majority countries, respecting the freedom of conscience and respecting the right to worship. And you in Malaysia, you in this country, you have to take it seriously. When some people are saying, you know, we have the impression that there is a kind of discrimination towards other religions and not the same rights, you have to be serious about it. Because that's a big issue. That's very important. You need to let the people believe the way they believe and to practice the way they want to practice. And they have the same rights as you are. This discrimination and racism and targeting religions by saying, you know, these people and we are right because we are a minority. Even the narrative of the nation. I met some people, not the last time I came, the one before, was telling us, we are Malaysian with the passport, but we don't feel that we are part of the society. They make us feel as if we are not really from within. It means that they are feeling that they are as if they were foreign citizens. You know, like whom? French Muslims. They have the passport, but they don't feel they are part of the nation, the narrative. So how come you sit here, you criticize France, and you do the same with the people here? Huh? You know what it is all about? Discrepancy. A lack of intellectual honesty. When you are a majority, when you are 60%, 50%, whatever you are in your country, in Malaysia, just show the right example. We, as Muslims, we respect religious minorities. Same rights, same citizenship, and same opportunities. No difference, and we are not scared of them because we are confident with our values. The way we deal with them is our dignified way with our religions, not by preventing them from praying, preventing them from practicing, preventing them from getting their rights. This is not acceptable. So you can't talk about the West being discriminatory towards the Muslims if you, Muslims, you are not right with your own minorities. If you are not, you know, I see many people say, wow, France and the West, they are very racist. They don't like Islam. Okay, come to Malaysia. How are you with the people who are not Muslim? Are you struggling for the respect and real pluralism? Are you doing the job? Are you the Muslims who are ready to say, as the Prophet ﷺ, لَهُمْ مَلَنَا وَعَلَيْهِمْ مَعَلَيْنَا? Are you ready to show that what makes you great is the confidence in your values and the respect towards others? Are you this kind of Muslims, or are you just criticizing the West, not looking at yourself in the mirror? That's the point. We are full of contradictions. We are ready to criticize everything which is coming from the West. But look at ourselves. Let us start with this self-critical approach. We are not at the level of the Islamic principles in our Muslim majority countries. I can see this everywhere in the Muslim majority countries in the Arab world. I can even see this, to tell you the truth. When I was young, struggling with my own family, somebody from my family telling me if I have a Muslim coming to a job and a non-Muslim, a Coptic citizen, Egyptian citizen coming to the job, I will give the job to the Muslims, even though the other one is more equipped and have more qualification. What's that? What's that? Is this Islam? And you know, because you don't get it. They came and they are colonizing us. And they want to play with our rules. And say, wow, this is exactly what I hear in the West. So you are the same. So you are the same. And you want to lecture the West? Start with yourself. You know what? Just go straight in front of the mirror and lecture yourself. That's it.
Okay, two things. First of all, thank you very much for clarifying about mysticism and Sufism. It's awesome. I belong to a Sufi family, and a lot of people ask me, aren't you the ones who don't pray at all? I'm like, no, that's not true. Second is, I want to ask you about ijtihad and self-interpretation of the texts. How, as a youth, can we be sure of whatever we are interpreting, Quran and Sunnah, it's in the right guidance? I mean, there are many scholars out there who do say stuff which might not be right. So how can we make sure that we are being critical, but it's in the proper guidance? Like we are thinking, and our thinking process is going in the right way, not in a wrong way. As a youth, how can we make sure of that? Thank you.
Yes, thank you. Just one thing that I want to repeat, because many of you were not here this morning, and I keep on repeating this about the Sufi tradition. Inshallah, I have a book coming on introduction to ethics from different angles: the legal tradition, the philosophical tradition, ilm al-kalam, I mean, and the mystic tradition. And I have been working on this for a while. And I know that some are very reluctant when it comes to mysticism. They are confusing with what it's now presented as the new Sufism. And I always just put this very clearly with 4 conditions. You want to identify the true Sufi circles, because it's not a bid'ah, it's part of our tradition. 4 conditions. First, they are very strict with all the rules coming from Islam. Praying, fasting, and they are adding to the rituals and not subtracting. Not subtracting meaning they are praying, fasting, and everything, and they pray more, they fast more. So it's bin nawafil, because the hadith of the Prophet ﷺ, meaning adding things. So they are very strict. So the true Sufism is not about praying less, fasting less, flying more. No, it's about praying more and being committed. This is one. Second is the sheikh and the role of the sheikh. We don't have a problem. You can even go to some of the books of Ibn Taymiyyah. Ibn Khaldun wrote a book about do we need a sheikh or not? Shifa al-Sa'il. It's a very interesting book that is not very much known, but it's a book where he's saying, in some issues, sometimes we need a murabbi, someone who is staying to teach you. But there are some conditions. First, the murabbi is helping you to be close to God, not close to Him. To worship God, not to worship Him. To God, to the sanctity of Allah, not the sanctity of human being. So be careful with any circle where you see that the people are worshipping the murshid as a saint that is not making any mistake and going very far. You know, there is nothing wrong of kissing the hands of somebody, your mother, your father, and people you respect. It depends how you do that. Out of respect, out of worship. To respect, to show that I love you. I do this, you know, I saw this with people who are doing this with my father. It's not a problem. You do it with it's always good to kiss your mother and your father, hands and forehead. Do that. Don't be shy. It means I love you. If you are shy to say I love you, show it. And kisses are halal. No, there are halal kisses and haram kisses. So this to show respect, and some are, and you see that the shuyukh even are withdrawing their hand. We don't. It's possible, but the intention is to show respect, not to worship. If the sheikh is helping you to be close to Allah and serving you in this teaching, it's not a problem. If you are having this feeling that it's all about worshiping Him, it's a problem. The third thing, which is very important, is the relationship between the Sufi circle and power. Are they used by the power and the government, or are they independent? A Sufi circle is independent, by definition. We don't deal with the power. To be accepted, that's fine, but the way you are supporting power and instrumentalized. Look, in many countries, go to Senegal, go to Morocco, go to Algeria, you will see that some Sufi circles are very close to the government, and very often they were used by the colonizers. And somewhere Amir Abdel Qadir was a Sufi independent. He was resisting the French, resisting power. This is the truth. Shamil in Shishan, he was resisting. This is where the people were saying, no, Sufism is about political independence and resisting even. So anyone who is telling you Sufism has nothing to do with politics knows nothing about history. They were always very tough in their resistance to any colonizers. And the wrong Sufi types were collaborating very often. And the fourth thing is about money. Be careful when you see that there are money around the circle, there is something wrong. And when the people have to give money and it's all about giving money to the sheikh who is... so 4 conditions are important. The relationship with money, the relationship with power, the relationship with the sheikh, and the very strict implementation of the rules. This is what I said, and I repeat this because I know that some people are coming, and now there is a trend of more Sufism and less commitment to the rules. I understand that you are fed up with scholars telling you about the rules, but be careful with the people who are always telling you about flying. No, it's strict. It's a very disciplined process. It's very difficult to be spiritual. It's not easy. It's a commitment with the rules. So your question was about... I forgot.
How can we make sure that whatever...
Ah, yes, I got that. Thank you. It came back to me. Thank you. So no, I took time for that because I think we need to clarify the picture. About your question is, look, if you listen to a scholar and you have a doubt, if you are not equipped, and I mean equipped, you know, you are dealing with scriptural sources. Even Abu Bakr as-Siddiq, Khalil al-Rasul, he was his friend. He made the Prophet cry when the Prophet understood that he was to leave. He was crying, and he cried when he heard about, you know, the announcement that the Prophet ﷺ was leaving. He understood that this was over, and he was crying. He himself was very cautious about anything which has to do with coming from the Quran and saying halal and haram. He was so, with all his knowledge, the more you get knowledge, the more you are cautious with expressing an opinion. Now we have people with no knowledge, they are full of opinions on everything. You have to be sincere with your own knowledge, and you know better than anybody else what you know and what you don't. If now you read the Quran and you don't know about ayat al-ahkam, meaning the verses that have to do with rules, you don't know the chronology, you don't know the hadith, you don't have an overall understanding of you don't come and say, oh, I like what you are saying is right. Now if you have a doubt, out of your doubt, what is legitimate coming from somebody who is not equipped is to have questions, and then you look for answers. And with your understanding, you go to the scholar and say, I want an answer on this. And you have the right to ask him or her, how did you bring this? How it's coming? Just give me the logic, the rationale behind. This is the right, and this is even a duty. So if you don't have and you are not equipped for the answers, you are equipped for the questions. Always. And it's legitimate to ask questions. Now, be careful. It's not because you don't like an answer coming from a scholar or because you don't like the scholar that what he's saying is wrong. But you are legitimate to have doubts and say, no, it doesn't make sense. And you're right, even some scholars are saying or are giving fatwa, legal opinions, that are completely against logic or against science. They don't get, they know nothing about medical sciences, and there are things, it doesn't make sense. So you have to look for others. Your responsibility is to look for the answer which is giving you peace and feeling good. You know what Abu Hamid al-Ghazali was saying about who is your imam? First he was saying, look at the people around you. Try to find somebody who has the knowledge. And then 2 conditions are important. he's acknowledged at that time, he, but inshallah it will be she, because we need Muslim scholar, women Muslim scholar, is he's equipped, he has the knowledge, he is respected for this knowledge. And the second is, when he gives you an answer, your heart is at peace with the answer. So it's a personal assessment as well, because you feel that it makes sense, that it's giving you something. But don't try to come with an answer if you are not equipped to read the scriptural sources and to get it. On some issues you can. There are things that are, at your level, ordinary Muslims should answer to some questions. But there are very specific questions you can't do that. And the only one who knows about this is you. So you can fool yourselves, you can play with it. But at the end, it's a question of sincerity. If you don't know, look for somebody who knows. But if you have questions, you have the responsibility and the duty to look for the right answer. And this is where you stand. Wallahu a'lam. But I'm not with this business of everything is open to everybody. I'm doing my own ijtihad based on what? My feeling. No, Islam is not about feeling. Islam has a framework. There is a framework. And then yes, the feeling is, the feeling works when you have many fatwa that are acknowledged. Your feeling could play a role in the way you are choosing among the accepted fatwa. The feeling is within the legal or the accepted, not the feeling beyond that. It's very important. The fatwa is very specific. It's for you at the time you are asking in this situation. And the feeling is very important. If you have the feeling that this is good for you, go for it. If you think it's not good for you, and some fatwa are good for some and bad for others. For example, about television. Some are saying it's haram. Others are saying it's halal. And my position is sometimes it's halal and sometimes it's haram. It depends what we are watching. But some are telling you the only fact that I have a TV set in my living room is creating into me something which has to do with addiction. So for you, you better remove it. For you, my answer to you, if this is an addiction that the TV set is attracting you and you cannot struggle, for you I would say it's almost haram. And I'm not going to say haram, I am following in the footsteps of Abu Hanifa. Say, I detest this. You understand? So, akrahu, I don't like it. So I think it depends on your feelings sometimes. And everyone could see this. You have some relationship with yourself, your own emotion, the culture around, even with music. It's not, you don't have all the same relationship to music. And you can see this with kids. With some kids, you put some music and that's it. Dancing, straight away. And some others, nothing. Put whatever you want. So later, the fatwa could be different.
This is the last question. Many people ask about ISIS and how do we deal with them?
So many people are asking about ISIS. And what do they ask? Can we go for it?
Your opinion, how should we deal with them? And so many youngsters are leaving their families to go to Syria.
Yeah. No, first, I think that it's a very difficult situation. And there are many things that are problematic. Because we know more about the fact that some people are leaving. And it's true that in the past, when it came to Palestine, we have less people. It's very strange that Palestine is so central and less people are going. And now we have this, and many people are going. And we have this internet attraction, and people are very often the victims of some people who are playing with them or instrumentalizing them. So first, I think we have to analyze the situation in two ways. As I'm always saying, we have to come with a religious take on what they are doing, and the way they are killing innocent people, the way they are killing Muslims and people of other faiths, this has nothing to do with our religion, and we have to take a very clear religious stance. We have to do that. Now, on the political ground, we also have to say what is happening, and to go further than only saying that these are extremists that are now resisting or killing people in Syria and Iraq. We also have to understand that at the beginning, for 14 months, the West left Syria, where people were being killed and resisting, and for 8 months even, before the 14 months, the United States and the European countries were asking Bashar al-Assad to reform his regime. They wanted him to stay and to reform. And he's a dictator. Now, he is clever, and he's supported by Iran, and he's supported by Lebanon and some threads within Lebanon. And what he did is he pushed the people who are in the opposition, he nurtured this trance of people who are completely crazy and being ready to kill. There is a strategy here. So we have to condemn this, but we also have to understand that there is a political agenda which is playing with them, pushing them, and this is why we have to study history. If you look at what happened in Afghanistan and the way some radicals were pushed in order to resist the Russian presence, and then we used them as a justification to go there, you understand that there is something which is very complex. So what we have to do is to be clear with our religious stance. We have to be much more sophisticated in our political understanding, and it's very complex. It's very complex. I wrote about this in the book The Arab Awakening by saying there is something which is happening. The new Middle East is going to go through the Iraqi pattern. Very, very fragile political system. Many divisions within what is happening in Iraq, and then all the resources are going to be protected. And look at what happened in Libya. Look at what happened. Syria doesn't have so much resources, but in Iraq it's the case, and in Libya it's the case, and in Egypt now, very difficult situation, very, very strong dictatorship now, coming back to what even worse than before, and then dealing with a situation which is unstable Middle East. Unstable Middle East means we need security and intelligence and the presence of foreign forces. Who are going to come first when there is insecurity? The keeper of security are mainly the Western countries, the states, and the European countries. Much more than the economic integration and presence of China, India, Russia, Turkey, South Africa. They were the new players, but destabilizing the whole Middle East meant more security and the old powers coming back in the game because they were losing ground. China was multiplying by 8 its economic presence in the Middle East. So, and you know that China is a problem. Why? Because they don't have a problem with dictatorships. They say, do whatever you want, give us the market. And they don't play with, we are supporting democracy, as you have this rhetoric that is coming from the West. So it's an economic game. So we need to be more sophisticated and to be able to condemn, but not to come with very simplistic political stance in what is happening. And it's not only Shia against Sunni. It's not. It's deeper than that. Even though now we have this big challenge, which is how are we going to deal with this in the region. So to be critical, to be clear in our religious position, to be more sophisticated in our political take or stance or questions when it comes to this situation. And then we come to our brothers and sisters here by being clear. you should do your utmost to prevent any young Malaysian citizens to go there. They are victims of people who are playing with Islam and saying, go for the jihad. It's not this at all. That's not the jihad. That's an instrumentalization of your religion. If you are serious about jihad as Malaysian citizen, struggle here for more justice. Struggle here for less corruption. Struggle here for a better society. And struggle here for your government to support the oppressed people and not the oppressors. This is your struggle as Malaysian citizens and Muslim Malaysian citizens. This is why you have to stand. But to go is the easiest way for you sometimes. You know, I always remember something that, in the West, it's as if, being the grandson of Hassan al-Banna is a liability for life. I'm lost. And you say sometimes history is not just, and the way people are bringing history to our minds is not always fair. And as much as he was, two stories that I want you to remember as what is said today about the movement. I was very critical with the Muslim Brotherhood before the uprising and during them being in charge, by saying you made many mistakes and your obsession with power is a problem. Even the very essence of the message was problematic. This was my take. I wrote it and I said it. And I even said I'm not going to go back to Egypt, because I knew, and I said it, that the army was controlling the country. The deep state was a reality. All this is written just even before it happened. And at that time, I got people saying, you are betraying your grandfather. I say, I don't think so. I don't think so. Now people are saying, some of them are saying, you might have been right in the way you were dealing with that. But two things that were very important. He was 41, 1 year before, 8 months before he was killed. And in fact, he knew that they were going to kill him. I'm saying this as, we were talking about martyrdom, we are talking about knowing that you are going to sacrifice. And by the way, jihad is also about sacrificing something. It's just you have to struggle. Your time, your money, your comfort, your salary. And he knew that they were going to kill him. And at that time, when you were heading an organization, you had the right to use a weapon as a personal protection. All the leaders of all the organizations, the political party, had a weapon to protect themselves. And once he left in the cupboard, he left it there. He left it there. And my mother, his eldest daughter, saw it. And she heard her mother saying to her father, they are going to kill you. And he said, I know. So she went to the cupboard, took the weapon and gave it to him. He smiled and said, no, bring it back there. And he quoted the hadith. When two Muslims are encountering, al-qatil wal-maqtul fi an-nar. The one who is killing and the one who is killed are going to be in hell. Say, I don't want to use that. Knowing that he was going to be killed, his answer was, you can kill me, I'm ready. I'm an agent of peace. I'm not going to respond to what you want to do to me. Because, and this story, it's very important because a few years later, I wrote a book in a discussion with a Christian professor. And he was in Africa. And in Africa, people were going to come to kill them. In fact, they were in a place in Africa where they have tribes coming to kill them. And he went in his house and he took the weapon just to protect himself and his wife. He said, I need to protect my wife. He took it and started to wait for them. And then he had a second thought. He said, I can't do that. I can't kill. So he went, he put it again where it was and said, if they want to kill us, they kill us all. saying that there is something which is إِنَّمَا أَنَّ اللَّهَ يَأْمُرُ بِالْعَدْلِ وَالْإِحْسَانِ. Justice is justice, but sometimes you say, you know what? My commitment to my values are beyond life. I'm ready. You want to kill me? Go. I'm not going to respond. This is one. The second story was during the Palestinian, the starting. And you know the Irgun and Stern were two terrorist Zionist groups killing. And they, Hassan al-Banna at that time, during the 40s, was sending people there to resist. And as the Egyptian government, supported by the British, were starting to put some pressure and oppressing people, some were saying, this is the fight, this is jihad, we have to go and we have to be ready to be killed. And one day he gathered all the people and said, I have something to tell you. And he gathered them and said, you know what? To be killed in the way of God is very, very difficult. You're right. But there is something which is even more difficult than that, is to live in the way of God. Don't try to get it so easy. Don't go for being killed. Now you have to live in the name of God. Constructing, striving, struggling, constructing and serving and promoting justice. That's the real struggle. Don't come with this very narrow understanding, oh, I'm going to be killed and that's it. No. Construct, build, strive, be part of. So it's very difficult to live in the path of God. Very difficult. All what I said today is part of this. So don't let the people confuse you about this, and help the young people by telling them, you know, the right sacrifice is not to go there to be killed, is to be here and to live as a good Muslim. Show us what Islam is doing out of you, instead of telling us what you have to do to others to be a good Muslim. This is the way, inshallah. May Allah help us. And thank you for your presence and the long time. I know that I took much more than what was expected, inshallah. One thing that I want to tell you, I came here 2 years ago, and what we are trying to do, and I know that some of you are equipped, some are studying in different fields. The Center for Islamic Legislation and Ethics that I am directing in Qatar, we are working in 11 fields, and we are trying to get scholars as much as young sisters and young brothers in these fields, that they are promoting an ethical take on this. So we have an international conference in March. It's going to be in Brussels. Inshallah, next year you want it to be here in Kuala Lumpur. In between, any one of you who is working in one of the 11 fields, you can go on the website. So you have the website, where it's kylecenter.org. You have also my official Facebook, where we are putting everything which is in the website. It's on Facebook or on Twitter. We're trying to connect you to make it clear that you are part of the solution and not observers of what is coming from the scholars in all these fields. I'm serious about this, because I don't want to have a passive community coming from one lecture and say, come next year. It's serious. It's a commitment. It's where if you have capacity, skills, and whatever in one of the fields, let us know. If you write things, if you are researching, we need to know this. We are publishing papers. We are spreading this in order to come with the relationship between ethics, values, and sciences, and all the sciences. You know, it's education, media, arts, economics. All these fields are part of our project. So inshallah, don't forget to be involved in this. Yeah. Sorry? The language. 3 languages. There is no Malay. I'm sorry. English, Arabic, and French. So everything that we are doing, for example, our international conference, everything is in 3 languages straight away. Our papers and the website is in 3 languages. So whatever is your preferred language out of the 3 languages that we are using, you are most welcome. Inshallah. Assalamu alaikum.